YouTube channel, guys, and welcome back to another video. Today I am back with another reading vlog. Today I'll be tackling my TBR. Basically, I have a long list of books that I do need to get through. For the next couple of days, I'm just going to be reading these 3 books that have been on my TBR for years. When I say years, I mean years. First one we have on the TBR is All Gomorrahs Are the Same by Tenjiwe Mswane. This is a South African author. I know that this is following 3 women in a family, so it's following 3 generations of a family. So we're going to be following Makhosi, Tutuzile, and Unontle. A lot of people who are my mutuals really enjoyed this book, so I really hope I do as well. One of the blurbs, it says it's an epic tale told through the eyes of 3 women. The story lets the reader into the very complicated generational conversations within Black families on a varying range of issues: womanhood, parenting, sexuality, sexual abuse, and most importantly, mental health, addiction, and loss. I'm looking forward to see how Utenjiwe basically approaches these themes and how she puts them in a novel. So this is the first book we have on TBR. Second one that I've already started is Under the Udila Trees by Chinelo. This is a historical fiction following the civil war in Nigeria, which was the Biafran War, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to be following Gioma, who is a young girl entering her teenagehood, but also showing the impact or how the war actually impacts her and her family. Has a coming of age to it. So far, I get the feel of that, but I'm also getting a lot of feel of the historical fiction, as it's giving us a lot of context to the war and how people in Nigeria basically lived. Currently on page 45. The font is tiny. The writing, it reminds me of the OG Nigerian books that I used to read. It's like around high school. I love the writing so far. I've already underlined a couple of lines. I can tell that it's going to be that type of book that more of like a character development type of book. I will really get to know the character and the things that they experience. I feel like it's going to be a slow burn to breaking my heart. So far, Ijeoma, I'm really interested in her, but she hasn't been a character that has kind of like cemented herself to me. So I really want to know what is it about this book that people really enjoy. So I'm really excited to get right into this book. Last one we do have is If I Survive You by Jonathan Escarfi. I think this one won something. The blurb says, a major debut blazing with style and heart, following a Jamaican family in Miami, carving out an existence between cultures, between homes, and between paychecks. I feel like I'm really going to cement myself in generational stories, also family dynamics with this reading vlog, as this one also we're going to be following a family, how they migrate from Jamaica all the way to Miami, and how their lives are basically like different from those spaces. So I'm really excited to read this book, and also just to understand why it won a prize, because I think it won like a very prestigious award or was nominated for like the Booker Prize, or like one of the finalists. The font here also is very tiny, so this might just be a little long-ish vlog. But I'm really excited to do this reading vlog. As I've said, getting through my physical TBR is one of my priorities for this year. I'm really happy that so far I've been doing well, but I want to do great. Without talking too much, let's get right into reading. Hi guys, it is the next day. Still reading. I'm currently on page 115. I read a little bit this morning on my walk. I'm currently on chapter 23, which is part 2. So no, I'm on part 3 actually. Look at me. I feel like a lot has happened and we still haven't gotten a lot of information at the same time. The writing is amazing. As I've said, that it is the type of writing that gives you a lot of context to who the character is or what they have gone through. So we see Ijeoma basically, she tells us the story of how her life was before the war and how her life was also in the midst of the war, and how she was affected or how her family was affected by the war. And we get to see her kind of like describing the relationship that she has with her mother, kind of like the kinship that they have as like a mother and daughter. Like skips, I think, like 2.5 years, we get to part 2 where we see there is some distance between the two of them, and we get to see that they have changed quite a lot. Ijeoma's mom lives a certain kind of lifestyle and she truly believes in God and what the Bible says, takes the Bible as it is, whereas Ijeoma questions religion, Christianity, and the Bible in itself. In the 2.5 years that we don't get, she met a girl named Amina. It seems like they formed a relationship. Her mom converses with her and how the relationship that they had was a sin, it was a demon that had entered Ijeoma. Interesting just to see the before and after, and I really love that Chinelo gave us that context. What I didn't expect was how religion was such a huge focal point, and faith and the struggles of faith in itself. An interesting thing kind of go through, especially at the age that Ijeoma is. She is currently 14 if I'm not mistaken. It is a coming of age, but she's also not going to take things at face value just because adults are saying them, or just because this is how their lives have always been. Doesn't necessarily mean that that's the only way of life there is. And I love that conversation. Really surprised at how faith and religion is such a focal point in this, and also some Bible verses that are entered here. We see Ijeoma like questioning said Bible verses, and I'm really enjoying that. Truly in the mind of a teenager coming to self and being raised in the church, but being so different from what the church represents or what the church is. The writing, I can't stop talking about the writing. I underlined so many things. One of the things that Chinelo has added here was the conversation of change and how us as humans we react to it. And there seems to be a lot of resistance when it comes to change. And I want to read this quote, how we should look at change. Perhaps everything was a reflection of that vision of change. Perhaps the nature of life was change. Wasn't creation the ultimate proof of this? The changing of something without form into something with form, turning void into full, the division of light from darkness, of waters from waters, of sky from land. Maybe even death was a reflection of God's vision of change, the same way that birth was. That was like foreshadowing, but to what we will get to part 2 and what we are getting with part 3, as well as it's like Ijeoma is telling us her journey, but in a form of like a folklore, or in a form of like inganekwane. Once upon a time, there was a girl who had an idea of the way that the world should be, but she was older now and she had begun to see the ways in which the world she had imagined was never going to be the world she would have. That's all I wanted to tell you guys, that I'm currently on page 115 and I am enjoying this book. And another thing that I am enjoying about this book is that it has short chapters. It may have tiny fonts, but the short chapters make me feel like I'm flying through this book. I was like, chapter 23. Okay. Going to log in and I'll talk to you guys whenever I'm actually done or if something happens. I'm back. I'm not better like Bryson Tiller. I'm back and I'm better. Hi guys, I am back with a reading update and I finished Under the Odila Trees last night. I so desperately wanted to love this book. Really wanted to be part of the people who really enjoyed this book. How I felt with this book, right? The first 50% of this book, first half, done so well, done so beautifully. I think the storytelling, like even though it was snail, I really enjoyed the story and how she was forming this relationship with Amina. I felt like I was getting a front row seat to seeing someone really discover themselves and also their sexuality in a world that tells them that it's not natural to do that. Even though to her it feels so natural, it feels so organic, it feels so authentic, it feels right to her to be in love with Amina and forming this relationship with Amina. I felt like it was a beautiful story to tell in that way. Something happens, her mom finds out, and then it's kind of like, this is an abomination. This is not how things should be. Like, you should be falling in love with a man and a woman should be together. The stereotypical Bible, you falling in love with a woman is not how it's supposed to be. Banish those feelings, basically. Her mom basically says, like, you have a demon inside you. I cannot fathom that. It showcased a lot of aspects of Ijioma's life, basically the relationship that she has with her mom and how her mom reacts to who she is. And also Ijioma kind of like, yeah, I'm hearing the Bible, right? And I'm hearing what you're telling me, but also the Bible contradicts itself. God loves me no matter what, no matter who I am, no matter how. Like, I think 16-year-old me would have loved to read this book, especially when you grew up in a family that is a church going, that believes in the Bible, that takes the Bible as it is. But you can't really explore who you are or what you like, or without have to center God and the Bible in itself. Everything has to surround that. The amount of times that I had to remind myself that this book was set in the 1970s because I just couldn't believe like how her mom did things. Like, her mom basically deserted her, and I think if that incident with Amina didn't happen, her mom was never going to fetch her. The relationship Ijeoma has with her mom was so quiet. Like, I didn't necessarily feel the love. There was a lot of obligation that Ijeoma had to like fulfill in order to make her mom happy. She really wanted to please her mom and to make her happy, hence why she did everything else that she did. Really love that, like the first half of that book. We are seeing Ijeoma coming of age, questioning the Bible, even though she does believe in God and loves God, looks at the Bible as a guidance, but also she's just having trouble with what the church says about loving another woman as a woman. Love that part. Enjoyed it. Beautiful. Love the storytelling, like the romance of Amina and Ijeoma. Let me tell you, when I first started picking up this book, right, I thought we were going to be following a queer couple. Like, we're going to see them maybe from when they were teenagers, falling in love. Something happens because it's during the 1970s, the Nigerian war, and then maybe they're going to find their way back to each other. None of that happened. And I think because I had walked in with that expectation, when that did not happen, I was disappointed. The second half of this book was just a letdown. I didn't understand why half of of those things happened. Like, I didn't understand why that man from her childhood had to come back. One. Second, I didn't understand why she had to marry him. I kind of did understand why she had to marry him, but hoping that this would be a romance in a sense that I did want Ijeoma to have a little affair. And I'm not ashamed to say it. I wanted Ijeoma to have a little affair. I wanted that man to be like a beard. Also wanted him to be like, actually, you know what? I'm gay. Like, I wanted that. I wanted a love story, to be honest, more than anything. And the fact that I did not get that, and it was just an entire marriage of she was miserable. Like, I didn't understand why she put herself through that. Yeah, she was just enduring, and I hate the fact that she did that. Like, this book was okay at best. I desperately wanted to love this book. I did, and I don't. Maybe I am the problem. Maybe I didn't understand. And I felt like the husband was definitely for the plot. And the fact that this book is so long with tiny font. 323 pages. Like, by the time I finished this book, I was like, what? I even forgot the joy that I had the first 50% of this book. That's how I feel about Under the Odila Trees. Then I started All Gomorrahs Are the Same by Tenjiwe Mswane. This also is a very beloved book. I've seen a lot of my mutuals enjoy this book. They love this book. I'm currently on page 50. I can see how they can say it's interesting in a sense that I can see the themes and the points that Utenjiwe is trying to like put across with Makosi Ututu. I haven't met Unontle as yet. There was a chapter opening with Tulani, who is Makosi's father, and you know, he's very poetic about how Makosi basically grew up very quickly, right? I'm like, okay, hooked, let's go. I'm 50 pages in and I'm still like, it's a lot of world building, a lot of history, the family and how the family is. I can tell that there's going to be a disconnect between Umakosi and Ududu, who is Kosi being the child, as well as Umadudu being Makosi's mom. Yeah, so far I'm bored in a sense that it's very mundane in its storytelling. No, I don't find that quite entertaining. I like a mundane storytelling as much as the next person, but it has to be beautiful writing. Like, I have to feel your emotions in it. I don't feel that emotion because I don't want to talk too much. And the story is still gonna get good. I'm just reading. That's how I feel. I'm really crossing fingers because I really wanted to enjoy these books. Yeah, man, I'll talk to you guys. It is the next day and I do have a reading update for you guys. Let's start with Okumhers Are the Same by Tenjiwe. I think I gave you guys like a little synopsis of what this book is about. We are going to be following 3 women, 3 generations. We're going to be following the mother and the 2 daughters. We're just going to be seeing how being a woman in a black society, especially coming off of apartheid, being a black woman in a working space, also as a mother, like a sister, as a daughter, a wife as well, and how you basically navigate all of these situations. And one of the things that I feel like it's going to be the main thing is motherhood and how complex the mother-daughter relationship is, which, if you don't know this, it's one of my favorite relationships to explore. I think there are so many nuances when it comes to that relationship specifically. I would like to see a lot of things regarding the mother-daughter relationship with that, because obviously this is a South African novel. Things that I feel like as black women who are South African, we may share, and I would love to see that explored. I left this book at like 60 pages, if I'm not mistaken. The reason why I am going to be DNFing this book is because the writing is... Have you ever read something and you're like, am I dumb? Like, am I stupid? Maybe it's the timing. Maybe had I read this book like 6 years ago, I would have been like, okay, it would have been more digestible for me. It's too simple for me. I can see that it has beautiful lines. Like, I'm gonna make an example. When we got the small chapter of Utulani, he is very poetic, and I still understood what he meant. Immediately after that, you start Makosa Zane's chapter. Wait, what happened to that writing from that first chapter? It's an issue that I have when it comes to South African authors. Don't be afraid to use the language that you want to use or to write in the manner that you want to write. Trust your audience that they will be able to accept and comprehend what you're saying. You don't necessarily mean write the entire book in that sense, but don't be afraid to use beautiful lines, beautiful writing. Don't be afraid to structure sentences, have so much emotions, have it sound lyrical, poetic. However, I feel like this book really is trying to put a lot of things in one book because of that very reason. Basically, the story doesn't gel well. It's not structured well. Maybe this book was definitely not for me. So it was a DNF. I left it at like 60 pages. I was like, I can't take it anymore. What I did do is start If I Survive You by Jonathan Escarafi. We are seeing things from Trey's point of view, who was born and raised in the US, in Miami specifically. His parents are from Jamaica. He has a very long, big family tree. Since he's like the only one out of his family that was born and raised in the US, he's so different from everybody else. He feels very out of place, not only in his family, but also in the world generally. So we see him having a crisis of identity. He always tried to insert him in all of these identities and he never quite fits, right? Up until he goes to Jamaica and he feels a sense of peace, a sense of, even though there seems to be controversial conversations when it comes to identity and also colorism, because even though everyone in Jamaica is like Jamaican or like is black, colorism and classism is still like a big thing, as within that community there is a divide. He is having a big struggle when it comes to identity. That's what I'm getting so far. I'm currently 40 pages in. Say I love beautiful writing. This is what I mean. This type of writing where there is nuance in it. It's kind of like he's doing a recap of the most monumental moments in his life. It leaves gaps for you to kind of like figure out on your own. There are some points where he doesn't necessarily tell us that his parents separate or like break up or something like that. I'm enjoying that. Now that I said that this book won a prize, it was actually nominated, guys. My bad. Anyways, we'll be reading more to just like get a better understanding of the book, but so far so good. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm looking forward to reading this book. Hopefully I'll finish this reading vlog with at least one good book. I'll talk to you guys when I do have an update. It's like later in the day. I have binged this book. I'm currently on page 139 actually. I remember saying that this book we're going to be following Trey and his family and him having identity crisis, identity issues, and I was so wrong. I was so far off. I mean, we do follow Trey, but that is just one part of the story. So far what I'm getting is that we're going to be getting like short stories of this family. They have 2 boys. They have history when it comes to them, the reasons why they moved from Jamaica. There was a war there, which made me realize I don't know much about Jamaica except for the fact that it has beautiful people, beautiful oceans or beautiful seas, and the fact that people from there can dance. I don't know much about the history of that place. This exposed me. I'm a person who likes to think they know a lot about a lot of things, but I'm also a person who doesn't know a lot. And I didn't know about the history of Jamaica. Parents moved from Jamaica to the US and they raised their kids there. They have 2 sons. One son is Delona and the youngest is Trey. The second story that we got was from the other's point of view. Let me tell you, the amount of context that I got from the parents' point of view raising a child like Trey was so interesting because the more I read, right, the more I got to see how even Trey's father, who is Topper, was not so keen in raising Trey, which made me feel so bad for Trey. Like, it's like Topper doesn't know what to do with him because he's so different from the family. When he first got Delona, who's his eldest son, he was very proud of him. He looks just like him. He does things the way that he wants a son to do things. He acts very Jamaican. I think that's because I think majority of his childhood was in Jamaica. Delona will relate to his father in that sense because Trey was born and raised in the US and he's so different even in the way that he looks, even in the way that he does things. The way that Topper kind of like receives that energy is just like he's broken, and it's so very sad to witness. You see a point of view of a son trying to please his father and he just doesn't seem to fit. You see Trey sacrifice parts of himself or part of his opinion and his ideas just to fit in, only to not be accepted at the end. Topper, you see him kind of like tell us how he grew up in Jamaica, how he was a lover man in Jamaica, and obviously decided to be with Sanya, who is Trey's mom. The war basically started, or like the violence started in Jamaica, decided to move and go to America just to be safe, and the anxiety that comes with his parents still live in Jamaica. Also the anxiety of just being a man in America. He's in a place that does not have him in mind. It's always trying his best, putting his best foot forward, but it's like nothing seems to work out. I feel like that is the like pattern with all of these men. They really try to put their best foot forward, but it's like nothing works for them. It seems like the decisions that they keep making just keep biting them in the ass and making the situation worse. It was really interesting to be in Topper's POV. He did something very despicable and I was like, I can't believe you did that, which made him more trifling than he was towards Trey. He has no remorse. This book has proving a point to me that men, in as much as they have it hard, they have it easy. That's just like wild. And also we see Cookie, who is Trey's cousin, how that short story ended. Men truly have it easy, and the fact that men have the option of tapping out of things or situations. But I'm not saying that it was Cookie per se, but it was like Cookie's father in that incident. Men will protect themselves in whatever capacity they have to, even if it's hurting their own child. I love how that was shown here, and I love how it made me think about the male experience in America. Also see men who try. Love the writing. I love how Jonathan expresses the inner monologue of the person who's narrating the story. Like, things just keep happening to these men, man. Whenever they try, it's like like, when are they catching a break? It's really interesting how I am kind of like consuming this book and how I am absorbing it, and also just having a lot of opinions. I love these type of books that make me feel like I'm an extension of the book. Like, it doesn't necessarily tie everything together. It leaves you wanting more and having questions and thoughts and opinions about sad stories. I am really enjoying it, guys, like shockingly enjoying it. So just end this vlog on a good note. We will see you guys later. Come to the end of this reading vlog. A little update. I finished If I Survive You last night, and this is such an interesting read for me. It's short stories, but it's interconnected short stories. It was an interesting way to structure the book or to write the book. As the writing in itself, it had a lot of nuance. Like, it had a lot of gaps where you can kind of like extend your own imagination on what how the rest of the story would possibly go. The one story that I'm still even thinking about it is Splashdown, which is we were following Trey's cousin, who is Cookie. I want to talk to someone who has read this book and just want to get their own thoughts on where Cookie is or what really happened to him, because there are certain stories, I think, with independent living. I didn't necessarily love that short story. We're still following Trey, but he's in a different phase in his life. Speaking about Trey, that boy did so many odd, peculiar, unique type of jobs. Is this what people in Miami specifically do to get money? He was always in just weird situations, always getting stuck, and it was all because he wanted money and he wanted better for himself. The reason of wanting better for himself is because there is a certain aspect of him that he wants to feel like he truly belongs. I finally understand that in order for him to survive, the you was so many incidents. Trey had so many things he had to survive. Race in itself, his own family, the system, the world. I was rooting for Trey and I wanted him to win, but also I knew that it wouldn't be stay true to the storytelling to portray the realistic life of Trey. And as much as I wanted a somewhat of a happily ever after, I like how ambiguous it was in its ending. I love the ending so much. Like, I sat with it last night and I thought about it this morning, and those lines, wow. Starts with the resentment and the feelings of neglect and your resulting recklessness. Recount every injury, every scar you carved into yourself. And when you are finished and you are certain your father has heard, do what might divert you from the path of self-destruction. Forgive yourself. With the last story, you can tell that it's Trey basically speaking to himself. I just love how those were the last line that we got. I think it's very interesting that I only got to hear from the male voice and got to understand the male experience in America. And I think the reason why I felt for Trey and wanted him to win and I was rooting for him so much is because I understood so much from him, because he really grabbed me with the first story in Flux. Like, I got truly invested in him. I'm really liking how he narrates the story, and I think the first story is narrated from the second POV. Yeah, this was really, really, really beautiful. This was really interesting for me to read. I love this book in a very surprising way. I think I was very shocked because of how frustrated I was in certain stories. I think when I read Delano's story, he kind of pissed me off. I had made decisions about him without realizing that I had made. How Trey was telling us about Delano. So by the time I read Delano's POV, I was like, I already don't like you. To see Trey constantly trying and not winning, because I feel like with other characters, they exhale in a way, even though they did have some sort of struggles, but it's like they got to exhale at some point. And I feel like with Trey, it's always a struggle. Like, everything is always an uphill. And I love that it just leaves us hanging, which also brings us to the conversation of me being an extension of this book, because I get to use my own imagination and kind of like wonder where Trey is. Yeah, definitely in the 3.75. That's where I'm sticking, or like a 4-star. I'm so happy that I actually read it. I've had this book for a very long time on my TBR, you guys. Let's do a quick recap of the books that I read in this reading vlog. Obviously, we picked up If I Survive You. We loved it. We also picked up Under the Udilla Trees by Chinelo Oparanta. It was a very confusing time being in this world because I genuinely wanted to love this book. Like, I went in with a huge expectation that I would love this book. It was a letdown. So because of that, and just like how I didn't necessarily love the second half of this book, I will give it a 3-star. Like, it's a good enough 3-star because of the first half of the book. I really enjoyed. I finished it. I didn't think about it for a while. So like soft DNF, I will be picking it up sometime later in the year. If I want to get rid of books, I want to get rid of books with good reasons that I'm in. It was just not the right time. So hopefully when I pick it up again, it will be the right time. It's a good start to this TBR takedown. Already read 2 out of the 3, so that's good enough for me. If you have read any of these books, let's talk about them in the comments on your TBR. What are you reading? Talk about it in the comments. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for staying with me and watching this video. If you really did enjoy it, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up. I'll see you in my next video. Until next time, mwah, bye.